Hey guys, and welcome to our review for Ford v Ferrari, directed by James Mangold, starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale.
No one dropped their phone here.
Nobody just dropped their phone there.
Don't worry about it. We carry on.
Also starring a few other people. My name is Scott Ellis. I'm joined here by Phil Clark.
Very excited for this review. I've been waiting
Really?
months for this. Months.
You
for this
care
review.
about racing?
Are you a racing fan?
I am a racing
You're
enthusiast.
a racist, if you will.
That is not the correct term.
No?
Not the proper nomenclature.
Well,
Also joining us is Adam Franey.
I don't really care about racing, but I saw this movie. So,
True.
I'm going to
Adam
review
and
it.
Thank you.
Adam and I saw it back at TIFF. Was the cast there?
Yesterday.
No, the cast wasn't there. We didn't see it. We didn't see the cast.
No.
Yeah.
Was
But-
the director
Full
there?
transparency, we saw this movie 2 months ago.
Yeah.
What?
It's been a while. It's been
Yeah.
a couple months.
You saw it 2 months ago too, right?
I
Phil?
saw it 3 days ago?
Right.
3 days ago.
Borderline 2.5. Yeah. Two
Out of
2
5?
months. 2 months and 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Phil, can you give us a little synopsis of Ford v Ferrari? For the viewers.
FVF.
After a merger goes awry, the Deuce, Henry Ford II, swears to exact revenge against Enzo Ferrari in the form of victory at Le Mans. Enlisting Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles to lead this new racing team, this is the story of one of racing's most legendary tales, Le Mans 1966.
Ford v.
Ford
was,
v Ferrari.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
You
That was
put
nice.
thought into that.
That was off the
I
dome.
could feel the
That was
passion.
off the cuff.
Off the cuff.
Yes,
wasn't
Matt
written, I
Damon,
was
Christian
16.
Bale. Adam, let's start with you.
Oh, fuck.
What are your general thoughts and feelings
My general
about
thoughts.
Ford v Ferrari? Yeah. How'd you feel? How did you feel back then?
Have you been waiting months to hear this?
No, I'd like to hear your opinion.
I don't. He doesn't.
I
his
have.
opinion doesn't
I
matter.
actually have been waiting months to hear what you guys thought about this movie. Not only to talk about it, but to hear what you thought about it.
Thank you. I thought it was very good.
Mm.
I'm not going to hide it from you, Phil. Or you, listeners. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought Christian Bale was great. I thought Matt Damon was great. Great performances all around. Beautifully directed by James Mangold, who we didn't mention. Excellent director, in my humble opinion.
I did mention him.
You did mention him?
You did,
of course.
yeah.
Oh, well,
Always does.
I never listen.
What I say doesn't matter.
Correct. Yeah, I thought from his the number one thing that stood out for me was the sound design in the theater,
Like in the
especially.
racing with the racing.
Yeah,
Oh,
the roar of the engines. Oh my god, it was wild up in that bitch. It was fucking wild. But most importantly for me, as someone who's not a fan of racing per se, no offense.
It's okay.
This is how I felt when we were reviewing Bohemian Rhapsody with Swiddy. And this was his end all be all. I just couldn't look at him the whole time. But this movie's good. That's the difference. Best picture.
Got him.
Fuck me. Yeah, I feel like you don't have to be a fan of the actual subject matter, the actual racing in general, because Matt Damon and Christian Bale, in their performances, their passion transcends the actual subject matter itself. So it's I'm a fan of people being extremely passionate about something and stopping at nothing until they succeed at it. Obviously,
Yeah, the actual plot of what's happening could be about anything, but
Anything.
the movie,
pencil sharpening.
the
That's how exciting racing is to me.
the heart of this movie is about their relationship, right?
Right.
And yeah, you're right about their passion. So yeah,
It's beautiful.
It could be transposed in different genres.
Unarguably, the dad film of the year.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Not
Yeah.
even close.
I have this mustache to represent the demographic that this movie is gonna
My dad would love this movie.
My dad would love this movie. I told my dad when I came home from TIFF 2 months ago, you will love this movie. Yeah, and that's why I can't give it necessarily like a 5 or anything like that because it is a very crowd pleaser, polished, very precious, almost Disney type of like sports movie.
Right.
But that's not to say it's bad. I thoroughly enjoyed it, had a blast with it, but it's
Bit formulaic.
A bit formulaic indeed. Yeah.
Shit, that gave you pause there.
Yeah, it did. I was thinking Formula One racing, but then I realized, is that a pleb move on my part?
Shit on my dreams.
Yeah, this isn't Formula One.
This is not Formula One.
Right. See? I know that it's not.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I just want to like sort of like disclaim my rating. If like I have nothing really necessarily bad to say about it, and then I come to my rating and people are like, "What the fuck? Why aren't you giving it a 5?"
Right.
It's just that like sort of it's like a on steroids version of like a $1 Million Arm or like one of those like Disney sports movies, but like extremely
Cars?
Well done. Yeah, dude.
It's like Cars, dude.
This is the live action adaptation of Cars.
It is, right? Yeah.
Lightning McQueen. Yeah. No, it's a very enjoyable, classic sports film.
Well, I'll jump in. You can wait.
In my opinion.
I knew it.
I pretty much I agree with that standpoint.
Right. And we're out of time. Sorry.
Yeah, that'll do it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, you sort of hit the nail on the head. It is a bit formulaic, but also very enjoyable. I thought the racing sequences were great, and the sound design really added to it. But just the way it was edited, I don't know. It worked, right? It really added to, just the experience and just pulling you into that feeling of racing. I thought Christian Bale was great. I think he was the standout for me.
Me too.
In this film.
Was great too.
Yeah, he was great as well as Ken Miles' son. Christian Bale plays Ken Miles, and I thought sort of his family dynamic was a great part of this film, and seeing that side of it, as well his wife. I can never say her name, but I think it's Katrina Balfe. Is that right?
Okay.
Played Ken Miles' wife, which I didn't write her name down.
Yeah.
But Noah Jupe was great. I thought Matt Damon was fine. I think Matt Damon was Matt Damon.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I think I said Matt Damon's great. He was Matt Damon, but he was good. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no. Sometimes you need a Matt Damon.
Yeah,
and we got it.
He played as a man who knows literally nothing about Carroll Shelby. He played him very well.
Yeah. I thought Tracy Letts, who played the Deuce, Henry Ford II, I thought he was a great pick. There were some really funny scenes with the Deuce.
Hilarious, yeah.
That was a great sort of source of comedy in this film. This movie was pretty funny, if I remember correctly. I remember laughing quite a bit.
It's not being talked about enough. It's very funny.
There were some good jokes. And there's a sequence where Ken Miles takes the Deuce on for like a test drive.
I think I was howling.
It was hilarious. Actually, the theater was exploding in laughter, and it was very funny. And I just thought overall very solid, very dad film, but nothing wrong with that. Every once in a while, sometimes you want to be entertained, and you want to enjoy. You want to be on this nice ride, and there's some good emotional moments, in the third act. Which, maybe a little, I don't want to say cliche near the end, but it's tough when it's real life, like this is just one of those real life Disney, underdog stories that happen in real life, right? So
did Disney make this movie?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's just one of those, real underdog stories that happen for real. So because it's this sort of cliche story that's been done in movies so much, when they do an actual true underdog story, it seems cliche, but that's what happened, I guess, right?
It's a good cheeseburger.
But yeah, overall, it's a solid.
I use that analogy.
It's a bacon cheeseburger.
If you are a listener, you know I always say the cheeseburger metaphor.
Yeah,
it's very good. I've had a million before. I'll have a million after it.
You enjoyed it in the moment?
I enjoyed it in the moment. Yeah. It's very good.
Let's jump over to you, Adam. You haven't talked yet, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I have. I just wanted to repeat myself before we get out of here. Ratings and then spoiler.
Yeah, we'll do that and then let's jump over to you, Phil.
I can't put this to bed. 2 months of torturing.
Let me just wade in here.
Give some context, little buddy. Go
ahead. This
might
might be the greatest racing movie of all time.
Oh, better than Rush.
I will agree with you guys that the plot.
Not many.
Outside, there's not a lot of racing
better
movies.
Than Days of Thunder?
Yes.
Haven't seen it.
Not a lot of stuff outside of the racing of this movie made me go like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Are you a racing fan?
I would agree with you guys. It was kind of formulaic. I would say that it felt like they put a lot of respect on the characters and the people. They did Ken Miles pretty well. I thought they did the Deuce hilariously. John Bernthal in his limited role was very good, although he's significantly younger than Leo Iacocca was at the time. That Leo Iacocca was 60 years old when at the time that this took place. So they but I thought it was fine. It didn't detract from the story. He was pretty good. Even though he was only in it a little bit.
What did you think of John Lucas chewing on the scenery as the maniacal?
I feel like he's done that in a Disney movie before.
That's it was. I saw him immediately, and I was like, "Yep, you're gonna be a piece of
draft
shit."
day.
Yeah,
you're just gonna be a prick.
Day.
This movie.
But the racing was incredible. Sometimes I watch car chase sequences in action movies, and there's always another gear shift, and they can always go faster, and they're just not quite going fast enough. Ludicrous this had speed. None of that. This was all it seemed exactly what would be happening in the course of a race. Braking, under braking.
What I want to hear.
I'm gonna outbrake that scene where they're racing at Willow Springs, and Ken Miles is I'm gonna outbrake you into the next turn. And he's just they're driving along, and then the other guy starts braking, and then Ken Miles brakes and gets it. That's just stuff that if you enjoy racing, that's the stuff that you want to see. That's the good part about racing that not a lot of people get to watch because they think it is so boring, and I understand that.
So let me ask you this: is it very inside baseball, this movie, or do you think that they softened it up and made it palatable for me for plebs?
They made it. No, I think they played.
What you just said, I never.
They played it very this is what makes racing great. Let's focus on what makes racing great and bring that into this movie. You couldn't really do it with better cars the Ford GT. Just how beautiful that car is.
Favorites, yeah.
Unbelievable. The Ferrari P3 also just unbelievably gorgeous. You just want to sit in those cars. All the AC Cobras that they didn't really talk about were fantastic. That were Carroll Shelby was trying to sell beforehand. After that, the Ford Mustang on that spinning thing. There's just so many vehicles in this movie that I'm it was hard for me to even focus wholly on the movie because I was literally just drooling looking at these cars. They're just so pretty. There's so many poster cars that are just plopped in and around this area. I thought the racing was fantastic. They did a little editing with some of the events. For instance, we go to 2 Le Mans races. It took 3 Le Mans races to actually complete what they had set out to do. And one thing I want to talk about before we get into our ratings is people often talk about this being an underdog story.
Okay, here we go.
It is not really an underdog story.
Explain.
Enzo Ferrari is he's the preeminent, he's the winner, he's the victor. So people think, it's hard to beat this guy. But this was really...
They're more the underdog than Ford. The Ford Motor Company.
Ford corporate America going, spend what you can spend, do what you have to do. It's estimated in today's dollars, they spent about $500 million trying to beat Ferrari between engines and braking and all everything that went into the car was about $500 million in today's money.
Well, the fact
to try to beat Ferrari,
the fact that they had $500 million to spend, is proof that they were not the underdog.
No. Right. So it's one of the great misconceptions about the story.
Slumdog Millionaire.
But it doesn't make what Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles did any less spectacular. And the fact that they treated it so like they treated the source material so like reverently and like respectfully, I was like very, very happy with that. Even though, like you guys said, like there's some moments that are a little cliche. There's like the little like stuff. One thing that is really funny is like all the little stuff that like Carroll Shelby did to like fuck with people. Like he locks the guy in the office. He's like stealing the watches. Like some of that stuff, I think like you might think, oh, like that's just them like making a movie. But I'm like, no, he probably did do that kind of shit. Like in racing, if you're not like, especially back then, if you weren't cheating, like you were not trying to win. You really weren't. So it's really cool to see that, and I really enjoyed this whole experience. It was just great for me. I just loved it.
So
just loved it.
Better than Talladega Nights, the Ballad of
Ricky Bobby. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
That's big words.
What about Cars 3? That was pretty good.
You know what? I did forget about Cars 3. Cars 1 and 2. I always forget about Cars 3.
You know what?
What a masterpiece of cinema.
I'm not mad at that. This might be the best racing movie of all time.
Yeah. And just, like you guys said, great for all. Like, I don't think you could go to this movie and have a bad time. You'd be sitting there like, this fucking sucks. These guys are fucking
Unless you just hate cars.
But then why would you go to the movie? Yeah. You have to like deliberately hate vehicles and racing to be like, yeah, this sucks.
I don't give like a single shit.
Well, your ex was a race car driver.
Your ex was Carroll Shelby. I think you would maybe hate it then. But that's...
Well, let's give our ratings and we can get into some spoiler talk perhaps.
Oh, fuck.
I'm going to start off. I'm going to say this is a 4. It's a solid 4 out of 5.
4.
I'm going to go heavy 4.
You couldn't do it. Oh! You couldn't do it, America.
Adam.
4. Just a stay-at-home, solid 4. Nothing too crazy.
It's a dad 5?
It's a dad 6.
5. It's an upper 4.
Yeah.
Heavy 4, Phil.
Not a 5.
No, I don't. I agree.
Well, let's get into some spoiler talk. So, fair warning, if you haven't seen Ford v Ferrari, we're going to talk some spoilers. So, Phil, why didn't you give it a 5?
Because I knew Ken Miles. Ken Miles died
You knew him?
2 months after he wins Le Mans. Like they don't really talk about like the time frame.
2 months.
2 months after he wins Le Mans.
Refresh my memory. I did just see it.
So they win Le Mans. So they start testing the Mark II GT40.
Okay.
And then just they use a lighter frame. Carroll loses it on the back end, crashes, car goes up in flames, doesn't get out in time. And
so pretty soon after.
Very soon after he wins. Well, he doesn't win Le Mans. That's the big like controversy. Bruce McLaren, another racing legend, wins Le Mans. But I didn't feel. This is gonna sound weird. I thought Matt Damon was good. I just feel like they very much focused on Ken Miles, and Carroll Shelby is a legend in his own right. Like even without Ken, even if you take all the Le Mans out of it, Carroll Shelby's a legend in racing. So I feel like they didn't really bring him enough in, and it always kind of felt like he was like hesitantly agreeing with Ford the whole time. Like not the whole time, like he did have his moments where he stood up to him, but it did feel very like he agrees, he disagrees.
Did we see does he have a family? Like
I don't believe he did.
Really?
I don't believe he did. Wow. He may have. Yeah. That's just entirely my
immaculate conception. He is Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, no one knows his origin.
Carroll Shelby, Anakin Skywalker confirmed.
One thing I did want to mention, again, just going to jump in here, don't really care. They talk about this guy on the radio, John Surtees. This is actually a little fun trivia for you guys. John Surtees was the reigning Formula One world champion at the time. He was driving for Ferrari, and he was just supposed to race in Le Mans in 1966 against Ken Miles. There was a dispute with the team manager, so they let him go. They let John Surtees go. And then Ken Miles won the race. But a lot of people think that if John Surtees had been allowed to race, he would have beaten Ken Miles because he was that good of a driver. But they did mention him on the radio, and I thought they were going to bring him into this movie in some way, but they just didn't. They just kind of left it.
I have a question for you, Phil.
Sure.
It's been made quite clear that you are the expert on this subject, which is why I'm so happy you're here. We can do a deep dive. How much accuracy, or is it confirmed, or what, that Christian Bale's character Ken Miles did throw the race and did finish at the same time?
They have footage of it, yeah.
So that was 100% what happened.
Yeah,
they called it into him.
They didn't call it into him. He did slow down because he was nowhere.
But we don't know, like,
we don't know
whole,
his
like,
reasoning behind it, but he
the
did.
villainous aspect of, like, Josh Lucas being like, oh,
that's what I mean.
To let him win,
or
whatever.
So we don't know if that happened.
No, I don't know if that happened, but they did. I do know that he broke his own lap record twice in the race. I didn't know he was out in front by like a significant portion where like you're gonna win the race, doesn't matter. And he did slow down so that they could have a 1-2-3 finish like that. Damn. So I don't know the events around that, but that's factual.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So perhaps some liberties there to drum up some tension.
Maybe a little bit, but
it's
interesting.
But would I put it like I said earlier, would I put it past anybody in that time to like try anything like that, or to be like when Carol Shelby's like, "Don't touch that phone, don't answer that phone." Like, no, like that's kind of the world it was back then.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay.
So let me get this straight. So for those inaccuracies, that's why you couldn't give it a 5?
No, I wouldn't say it was I think some of the inaccuracies were good. I just think that like there were some things I wish that they did that they didn't do, which is okay. Like you only have 2.5 hours. You don't have to like wove the whole narrative. But I think that a lot of the stuff outside of the racing did feel a little formulaic for me as a movie. Like as someone who knows the story, it was enjoyable to see it again and kind of like be in that moment. But I don't think that the telling of that moment was like groundbreaking. It still felt very like, okay, this is we're gonna get here, so let's build it back almost, if that makes sense.
Carroll Shelby prequel film, thus launching a cinematic universe of Ford v Ferrari is what you want.
That would be great.
I know that's what you want, the FCU.
But there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of documentaries about Le Mans 1966. You just type it into any search engine, some video will pop up, you can watch it and learn more. Like it's everywhere. But this is the first time it's in like a cinematic theatrical performance.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So really cool.
I don't have much else really. There's not a whole lot spoilery going on in this film, let's be honest.
No. Pretty cookie.
It's in the
film.
Yeah, pretty shit. I mean, it's like you said, it's like you can look it up anywhere, you can see the story, right? Yeah, that'll do it for our review for Ford v Ferrari. Phil, where can people find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd. If you're not sick and tired of hearing my opinion, at Wicked Swami.
Wow, I like the new tagline. You can find me on Twitter at Franny25 and Instagram and Letterboxd at UpRealAdam.
Find myself, Scott, on Letterboxd at UpRealScott. As well, if you enjoy this video, leave a like on it. Leave a comment below in the comments section if you want to join our discussion. And, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And as always, keep it real.